Tisha B'Av begins tomorrow night. It's a day of communal mourning, the most somber day of the Jewish year. It's said to be the day of the destruction of the first temple, and then 600 years later, the ultimate destruction of the second temple, the one that has never been rebuilt. We call the tragedy to mind through reading the book of Lamentations, or as it is called in Hebrew, Echa. Echa is a question. How? How can this be? How did this happen? Echa appears in Parshat Devarim as well. Moses cries out, Echa, how can I bear this? With different vowels, Echa becomes Ayeka, a question that appears only once in the Torah. When Adam and Eve are hiding from God in the Garden of Eden, God calls out to them, Ayeka, where are you? Echa, how? Ayeka, where? I'm grateful that Tisha B'Av comes this week to ask these heartbreaking questions, because they offer words to voice heartbreaking questions of our own. Echa, how can we confront the hunger crisis in Gaza? How did this happen? Ayeka, where are the hostages that are still being held in Gaza? And where is the path out of this ongoing war? We are also asking, where am I getting my information? How can I trust what I'm seeing when AI distortions and misrepresented images are reported as fact? How am I supposed to feel about all of this? How much compassion can I have? And where is it directed? Can I feel compassion for both the people of Israel and the people of Gaza at the same time? But these painful questions that we're asking are not just rhetorical ones. There are live questions that you are asking us, your clergy, and that you are asking each other. Where does our congregation fall politically on these questions? Where are you getting your information? How can you sit idly by while children in Gaza are starving? How can you accuse Israel when Hamas is responsible? Over these past weeks, I have personally been asked, Rabbi, how will you teach this to my children? All of these questions have been keeping me up at night. But as I'm getting ready for the school year, this is the one that keeps surfacing for me. How will you teach this to my children? This is an excellent question and an important one to ask. And I've been asked this from a vast array of parents with different subtexts. How will you teach my children in an age-appropriate way? How will you teach my children to be advocates for Israel? How will you teach my children to call out injustice wherever they see it? How will you teach my children through what you explicitly include in the curriculum? And how will you teach my children through what you leave out? Before I offer an answer, and I promise that I will try to offer an answer, I want to return to Tisha B'Av. The rabbis of the Talmud were plagued by this question of lament. Echa, how did the destruction of the second temple come to be? They knew, of course, that literally and physically it was the Romans who sieged Jerusalem and destroyed the temple. But they asked each other, how did we allow this to happen? How did God allow this to happen? They offered many possible answers, and one came to be the most widely accepted. The rabbis said, it was because of sinat chinam, baseless hatred within and among the Jewish people, that the temple was destroyed. Writing for Tablet magazine in 2013, Yair Rosenberg points out that there is a problem with how we invoke Sinat Chinam in our day. A professor that Rosenberg spoke with quipped, "No one I talk to is ever guilty of Sinat Chinam. It's always the other person that's guilty of hating me." Rosenberg goes on to demonstrate how we weaponize Sinat Chinam. The Jewish left accuses Israeli settlers of Sinat Chinam, while the Jewish right accuses them back for not supporting Israel unconditionally. The Israeli religious right accuses the Israeli reform movement of Sinat Chinam, and they accuse them right back, and so on and so on. But Rosenberg argues every single one of them is missing the point. He writes, "Nothing could be further from the spirit of Tisha B'Av than using this moral vocabulary to impugn others. In fact, the Talmud teaches the very opposite lesson. We must root out baseless hatred within ourselves. On Tisha B'Av of all days, we are not meant to point to flaws outside ourselves, however apparent they may be, but rather to examine those within us. After all, we can never truly know the minds and motivations of others. The only baseless hatred that we can diagnose is our own. Ayeka, where is my Sinat Chinam, my baseless hatred? Echa, how will I teach?" This is the question. This is not the one that I return to, because it's the most urgent one that I need to answer, or the most important issue to confront. I keep returning to this question because it's the one that I can control. None of us can personally control the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza or any misinformation coming out. We cannot control this war that is already approaching the end of its second full year. We cannot control the immense challenges that we face every day as anti-Semitism continues to escalate. But we can control what newspapers we're reading. We can control sharing our grave moral concerns within our community. We can control what is being taught to our children. And while it is immensely difficult, we can try to examine and control our own baseless hatred. Ultimately, this is my answer to how we will teach this to your children. We will teach them through joy. We will teach them the value of ahavat chinam, baseless love, as we strive to repair our world. We will teach them that they are each important members of Am Yisrael, the people who wrestle with God and who each wrestle in their own way. We will teach that they are part of a chain of tradition that goes all the way back to Moses at Mount Sinai. We will teach that our Torah is alive, and they can both learn from our deep wisdom and then add their own voice to our story. Yes, we will also teach them their Aleph Bet and about Jewish holidays and about Israel, but frankly, I'm less concerned about specific content. I'm concerned about what we can't teach, but what we can facilitate: Jewish identity, Jewish community, and Jewish joy. The rabbis of the Talmud had many responses to Echa, how did this destruction happen? They try out different reasons. It was because the people did not rebuke each other. It was because they desecrated Shabbat. But then, Rav Hamnuna said, Jerusalem was destroyed because our school children were interrupted from studying Torah. It was our failure to protect our children's learning, the rabbis argued, that the Holy Temple was destroyed. But the rabbis then take it one step further to argue that even though we are lamenting the destruction of the temple, that is actually not what's most important to us. Reish Lakish taught in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, you may not interrupt school children from studying Torah, even if you are interrupting them in order to rebuild the temple. We cannot confront our own sinat chinam, our baseless hatred, if it comes at the cost of our children's learning. We cannot repair what is most broken through disruption. But if we can acknowledge our baseless hatred and work to repair it within ourselves, we can make room for ahavat chinam, baseless love, to take root instead. As long as we open ourselves to the possibility of ahavat chinam, of loving without bounds, we have an opportunity to repair and rebuild. May this be a Shabbat of reflection, respite, and repair for all of us.